Hey, what's going on, guys? Anthony Predicts here. So today I have a new video for you that is a Democratic primary between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. Now, I'm sure by now everybody knows who Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders are, or who they are, but if not, Joe Biden was the former vice president, and Bernie Sanders is the Democratic Socialist senator from the state of Vermont, both of which are in the top three for the Democratic nomination, and there's a very real possibility that this could end up being the 1 and 2 race at the end of this process. So I thought it'd be cool to do a potential primary video of how I think a map of them versus each other would end up. So to start off, I think Bernie Sanders would win the states of Washington and Oregon. I think these states in the upper Northwest are more progressive than states down south. I also think Idaho would go to Bernie Sanders as well. I think Joe Biden would win the state of California. I think a lot of more Hollywood elite and establishment are going to back Joe Biden, and the more individual workers, middle class workers, and poor will support Bernie Sanders. I think Bernie Sanders will win the state of Montana. I also think he'll win the state of Wyoming. I think Bernie Sanders will win in Nevada and in Arizona as well. I don't think both of them don't really appeal to Hispanics all too well, but Bernie Sanders appeals better than Joe Biden does. I think Biden will win the state of Utah. I think Bernie will win the state of Colorado as well in the state of New Mexico. Now, I think I think Sanders will win in Alaska and Hawaii. I think Bernie Sanders will win in North Dakota and South Dakota. I think Bernie Sanders will win in Nebraska. I think Joe Biden will win in Kansas and Oklahoma and in Texas. I think Joe Biden would win in Louisiana. John Bel Edwards is a great example. They prefer the more moderate Democrat, and of the two, Joe Biden's more moderate. Arkansas and Missouri, I think, would both go for Joe Biden. I think Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia would go for Joe Biden as well. Kind of the Deep South all voted for Clinton over Bernie last time. I think the results would be pretty similar. I think South Carolina would go for Bernie as well, or for Joe Biden as well. Tennessee would also go for Joe Biden. I think North Carolina, the African American vote, would come out to vote more for Joe Biden, so I think Joe Biden would win there. I think Joe Biden would win in Florida. I think the more swing state voters will end up siding with Joe Biden. Although Andrew Gillum did win the primary last time, in a one-on-one Biden versus Sanders, I do think Biden would win. Biden, I think, would win Virginia because Virginia is more establishmentarian and a lot of Washington workers, and I feel like that's the kind of core support Joe Biden would have. I think Bernie Sanders would win in Kentucky and West Virginia. Under the Obama administration, a lot of coal workers' jobs were laid off, and I think that part of the blame would be put on Joe because Obama can't run. And I feel like Bernie would capitalize on that, so Bernie would win in Kentucky and West Virginia. I feel like Iowa, at this stage, Biden's winning in a three-way race between Warren, Sanders, and Biden very narrowly. However, I think if it was one-on-one, I think Bernie would end up winning Iowa. So Iowa, I would give to Bernie Sanders. Illinois, the state of Illinois, Obama's home state. You know what? I think Bernie Sanders would win in Illinois. I think Bernie Sanders may end up having more of a progressive appeal than Joe Biden will. That may be enough in places like Chicago to overcome Joe Biden. And I think Minnesota would go to Bernie Sanders. And this is the thing: they all talk about is Joe Biden having this Rust Belt appeal, being able to beat being able to beat Donald Trump. I don't really think I don't think. Excuse me. I keep calling him the wrong one. I don't think Joe Biden has that appeal really. So I think Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania all will go for Bernie Sanders. I think Ohio and Indiana will also go for Bernie Sanders. He has a lot more appeal. I'll be honest. Bernie Sanders has a lot more appeal among individual workers and working people than Joe Biden does. And I don't think Bernie Sanders gets enough credit for that. He doesn't really get the recognition in the media that Joe Biden does for having a connection with the working class. So I'd give the Rust Belt to Bernie Sanders. I would give DC, Maryland, and Delaware all to Joe Biden. I'd give the state of New Jersey to Joe Biden as well. Connecticut, I would give to Joe Biden. Rhode Island, I would give to Joe Biden. Massachusetts, my home state. I think Massachusetts would be one of the closest states, honestly. I think Massachusetts would go to Bernie Sanders, though. Vermont, I think, would go to Bernie Sanders. New Hampshire would be the second state to vote. I think New Hampshire would go to Bernie Sanders. I think Maine at large would also go to Bernie Sanders. And I think in this scenario, it would come down to New York. And I honestly think Bernie Sanders actually will win New York. I know Hillary Clinton won it last time, but it was also her home state. I feel like it'd be more of a battleground now. And with AOC coming out to endorse Bernie Sanders, I feel like Bernie Sanders would end up winning the state of New York. And with that, that's what I think the primary map would look like. I did a winner take all format, so the electoral votes don't really matter. But if this were to happen, I'm pretty sure, like 90% sure, this would be a contested convention or a split convention. And I feel like with all the super delegates and all that stuff, the DNC would find a way to rig it where they would give it to Joe Biden over Bernie Sanders. Bernie and his supporters would be upset, and then Trump would end up winning again because they would screw over Bernie Sanders for a second time, which is a shame. I think both systems, how we nominate people, the delegates and super delegates and stuff, it's all wacky, and I don't really think anybody understands it, and it doesn't make any sense. But yeah, that's my prediction for Joe Biden versus Bernie Sanders one-on-one Democratic primary. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe for more content. I'll see you in the next video.